We have Joel here, everybody. Here he is, Joel Rubin. Joel, thank you for joining us. He has been walking us through every single step of things going on in Ukraine. Joel, can you first just walk us through the new set of sanctions we heard about today from the president with airspace, that they're limiting Russia's airspace? Explain what that means and what impact it's going to have on Russia.
Ashley, it's great to be with you. And yes, the sanctions are biting, and now the president tonight, he announced that we no longer are going to allow Russian planes to fly in our airspace. And this is a cascading dynamic that's occurring right now. Over the weekend, extreme sanctions were announced by the White House in partnership with our European allies, sanctions to cut Russia off of the SWIFT financial transaction system, to really hammer hard the Russian economy, to freeze its central bank assets totaling $630 billion. And what we're seeing as a result of that is that Russia's toxic. And so this means that the private sector across the world is getting out of Russia. So Apple is getting out of Russia. We've seen Britain block flights. We saw Britain say oligarchs can no longer fly their personal fancy aircraft into their country. And it's spreading, it's metastasizing to really fully isolate Russia from any engagement right now, and make Vladimir Putin understand that there is real pain, that this is not the sanctions of yesterday. This is a serious, powerful hit on his economy.
Hey, Joel, Noah Pransky here. The instant reaction from Republicans is predictably critical of President Biden on the issue of Ukraine and Russia. They're saying he isn't doing enough, he should do more. Tell me, what more is there to do?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think the disingenuousness of that argument is just unbelievable. We had a president in Donald Trump who went to meet with Volodymyr Zelensky, the heroic president of Ukraine, and shook him down, said to Zelensky, we're not going to send you javelins to protect yourself, to shoot Russian tanks in the future, if you don't give me dirty goods on Joe Biden so I can steal the next election. And Donald Trump was impeached for that. That perfect phone call was basically a phone call to tell Zelensky that he can't defend Ukraine from a Russian invasion. So that was what Joe Biden came into office looking at, was a destroyed relationship with Ukraine, a NATO in disarray. And what he's done is he's reconstructed our relationships, enabling us to have a powerful reaction. So what more? What next? There is a lot more and a lot next. We saw over the weekend $350 million, the president mentioned it tonight, of humanitarian assistance, military assistance being sent to Ukraine. Our allies in Europe, Germany, other countries are sending in javelins and Stingers and other anti-aircraft missiles, essentially to defend them. And the devastating part of this war, and it's always worth repeating and mentioning, is more than 500,000 Ukrainians in only a week have already fled and are refugees. And humanitarian assistance is going to be extraordinarily needy and costly, and that is happening as well. But I do want to mention this as well. Diplomatic isolation is key, and a remarkable thing happened just today at a UN meeting, a United Nations meeting, where the foreign minister of Russia was speaking, and over 100 diplomats turned their backs on him and walked out. Unprecedented. So there is more and more and more while the fighting continues in Ukraine.
Joel, you and I have sat up here and talked about Vladimir Putin. You've called him a dictator. We've talked about how his ego plays into a lot of the things going on tonight. What message does it send to Vladimir Putin that the president started his State of the Union address speaking directly to him, mentioning him a lot of times? I mean, I feel like his isolation should be negative, but with Vladimir Putin, I feel like I have to ask you if that's going to have the effect that the president wants it to have.
Well, it is a bit of a trapped kind of dynamic, because Vladimir Putin, in many ways, he's wanted to restore the Soviet Union, or at least some figment of that, and be at the center of the world's attention. And he definitely is. But he is also, quite frankly, the center of the world's targeting. Right now, the world is going after him in every venue they can, except for, of course, the military at him directly and personally. But I think for Vladimir Putin, he's watching this And he may have one reaction, but the question is the people around him. The question is the military leaders around him, the oligarchs behind him, the ordinary Russians who have no say in their politics. They have no ability to influence their government. We take it for granted here that if we don't like our president, we can protest freely, we can criticize freely, and we're not going to get poisoned in the street. And then we can even mobilize and elect that person to get out of office. That's not the case in Russia. So the real power brokers in Russia are the ones that matter. They're the ones that lifted Putin up into power over 2 decades ago. And they're the ones that we're trying to hit very hard as well. So he might feel like he's, the center of attention, but that heat is pretty hot for other people around him as well.
Absolutely. Joel Rubin, thank you so much for coming here and discussing this with us. I'm
My
sure
pleasure.
we will see you just about every other day this week as well to continue this discussion. So thank you for your time.